friends. Welcome back to the Goddess Complex sub Astrology After Dark. How are you, Dani?
I am so good. How are you?
I'm good too. You know what I just realized? We're actually recording after dark.
Oh my God, you're
Yeah.
right.
Normally, guys, full transparency behind the veil, we record during the day most of the time and
I'm
drop this
usually
later.
in bed watching our shows right now.
It's very true. It's very true. But it just so happened that this Astrology After Dark, end of August, end of summer, we're recording after dark. Wow.
I love this.
I, I feel like that's kind of like a great segue into witchy season.
Oh, yes, which I am 1,000% ready for. I am
I'm
every year,
so
but I'm
excited for
extra like,
it.
I'm so happy it's time.
It must be because we have another wave of eclipse seasons coming in,
Uh,
because I'm really excited for it too.
I, you know, I am a Leo rising. I do, and Jupiter in Leo. I overall love Leo season and end of summer.
Yeah,
But I love me a transition into Virgo season.
I
You should
know.
see the rooms in my house. I've already started reorganizing. I've
Mm.
started like redoing like how I do things in my planner. And it was so funny the other day. I was just like, oh, I need this every year. I need this. It's
I
so good for me.
know, I know. I can't wait for like the fall scents and all of that. I already got my fresh cinnamon broom that's in the sunroom. And
Oh, I have to
when
do
you
that.
come into the house, yeah, it just smells like cinnamon.
Mhm.
I'm excited. I can't wait. We need to think of some good folks to do for September, October, November.
Send us your good ideas
Send
for
us your good
spooky,
ideas.
witchy veil, like thin veil
Hmm.
suggestions. I love that idea. Let's
Dead
get
or alive, we
serious.
don't care.
Dead or alive, we don't care. Also, as
No,
you know, Ashley and I are willing to go there, so I don't care
we
who it
are.
is. Like, send
We don't care. Right.
it.
Send us
Send
OJ.
it.
Yeah. But yeah, DM one of us, DM both of us. We want to know whose birth charts you guys want to hear
Or
about.
Sinistry. Or Sinistry. Don't
Or
forget.
Sinistry. Yeah. We haven't done a
Yes.
Sinistry episode in a while.
Mm-mm.
I'd be down for that.
Totally. Me
So
too.
today we have, speaking of you guys sending us stuff, this was a request.
Listener
This
request.
person we have today. And this is going to be fun because Dani and I would not consider ourselves like Dolly super fans. We respect her, honor her. She's a great lady.
Love her energy. I get happy
Yeah.
when I see good things happening for her. Yeah.
Jolene is a
And
hit.
yeah, both of us fans, Jolene. Who's not? Are you
Who's
living under
not?
a rock? Yeah, of course.
Seriously. I
Clap.
actually
We
just
know
did
that.
a remix of Jolene for Spin the other day.
Oh
It
my God,
hits.
that's
It
badass.
hits, yeah. But I couldn't tell you much else besides she's
No,
very tiny and has big
random
blonde
pop
hair.
culture facts for me. Exactly.
Mhm.
I know her so much more in that, like, you know how you have celebrities that you know about and you're like, yeah, I really like them. And you still wouldn't consider yourself like a follower of their work. You're not like
Yeah, yeah.
watching everything that they do. You know what I mean? Like, I've
Right,
never done
right.
a deep dive into Dolly, so this is kind of a fun one for
No.
us.
And so what we decided to do is we're gonna be astrologers. We're
Mhm.
pulling up her chart and we're gonna read her chart as if, she's somebody who came in as a client. And you Dolly fans out there, we would love to hear from you. Let us know, tag us when you're listening to the episode. Ashley Michelle 90 Day, Dani That Witch Next Door. Let us know what your thoughts are on how we interpret Dolly's chart.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
it'll
this
be
is
fun
going to
for
be
that.
really
Hmm.
fun. I think so too, because, normally we come with history of whoever it is we're talking about and why we are coming to certain
Hmm.
conclusions. But this time we're just literally looking at somebody's chart and we're
Yeah.
going to deduce down who we think this woman is based off of her chart, which is a great learning lesson for you all.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Good practice for us. Good practice for you guys.
Hmm.
And I mean, I know like Wikipedia bullet points and the
Yeah.
song Jolene. That's about what I got.
Jolene,
Yep, exactly.
Jolene.
That's what I got on Dolly. And
Let's do
like you
it.
said, Miley's
Yes.
godmother, who also did a beautiful cover of Jolene, might I add. And if you've never listened to Miley's version, stunning.
Yes. Miley,
Both
I
of
love
them.
Miley.
I do
I
too.
love
I am a
Miley.
Miley stan. I
Yeah.
will say that.
I'm a Miley stan. Maybe we'll have to do her next because or after witchy season. I want to know what you guys want, who you guys want for witchy season. But
Yes.
we'll put Miley on the list because I
She's on the
love her.
docket. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's pull up her chart. You guys already know the
Yes.
drill. You want to see the visual, go to the YouTube.
Go to
The
YouTube.
YouTube,
It's
star
like
seed
getting a
shadows.
free astrology class. I just want to
I,
say that.
dude, oh my God.
These
All of these
episodes are like
astrology
a
after
free
darks.
astrology class, except for more fun. So
I'm way more
go to
fun.
YouTube. Yes.
Yes. And subscribe. Don't
Oh,
just
yeah,
take
of
our
course.
gifts for free. Give us
Subscribe,
a
ring the
subscribe.
bell so you get notifications for new
Ring
videos.
the
You
bell.
know.
All of that. So, as per usual, we're using astro-charts.com. The birth time accuracy is excellent, which is honestly a gift. Because no shade to Miss Dolly, honey, but this was a while back.
This was a while
So,
back, and she was
yeah,
born in the sticks, basically.
yeah, she
So I
was.
also was impressed that the birth time was,
Uh-huh.
because she's talked about
Mm-hmm.
her upbringing in a lot of very famous interviews,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, they do know her birth time. Fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was wondering about that too. So we got Pittman Seta, Tennessee, January 19th, 1946 at 8:25 p.m.
1946, number one, Dolly,
Whoa.
you look amazing. Let's call it what. First of
Amazing.
all, let's start with that ascendant because you look amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. And so Danny's actually saying that because oftentimes you can look at somebody's ascendant for their physical traits and characteristics.
Yeah, some of the first
Set aside.
like known attributes of their like, especially
Mm-hmm.
first impression physical
Mm-hmm.
appearance, like the things that you very first see, which is
Mm-hmm.
knockout. Hello.
Crazy. Like I have Jupiter on my ascendant, which can often give like a round, full sort of face. Heart-shaped face is what they call. So take a look at your ascendant, guys, and look at it. I find
Yeah,
that ascendant physical appearance stuff, it tends to be pretty accurate.
it's so fascinating too. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about her ascendant. It's funny because we're in Virgo season at the time that you guys are listening to this, and she has a Virgo ascendant.
I know
She has
when
a
we
lot of
were
earth in her
talking
chart in
about
general.
exactly when we were talking about how much we love Virgo season in my head, I was like, oh, this is actually kind of a perfect little intro into
Mm-hmm.
Dolly because she's a Virgo ascendant. It's 2 degrees, and her moon, and for reference, I'm giving you the degrees because her moon is also in Virgo, fresh at 0 degrees of Virgo. So her moon is right on top of that ascendant.
It might look
Um,
like it's in Leo, but that's why, friends, if you're on the YouTube, you'll
yes,
know what we're saying.
yes.
We see this and the moon might look like it's at like the last degree of Leo. You can go down and a
Mhm.
lot of astrological search engines will have the list of the degrees
Yeah.
and you can check stuff like this. It's mainly because there was no room. That's kind of
Exactly.
why
That's
it
what I
looks
always
like
tell
that.
people.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's
yeah.
not that they charts inaccurately. You have to keep in mind that there's so many different symbols and like information
Yeah.
they have to put on there for you, and they have to make it look as readable as possible. So
Right,
I agree
right.
with Ash. Like that's such a good tip that a lot of beginners don't remember.
Hmm.
Go reference what you're looking at with the
Hmm.
list because it'll be more accurate, and that's good practice for your eyes to switch between looking at the list and seeing what that actually looks like on the chart.
I always reference the list. I like looking
Mm-hmm.
at the chart and the list like side to side. It's
Yes.
just it's good practice as an astrologer. What do you think about this? So we have her moon conjunct her ascendant in
So,
Virgo.
okay, instantly where I go is this like one of my favorite, if not my favorite little like fun fact I know about Dolly that I told you right before the show. Um, I learned a little while ago that Dolly has been married one time, has been married to the same guy since 1966, which we know
Whew,
now means she was only 20
20.
years old when she got married, became
Crazy.
a fucking lifetime superstar, obviously. She's doing just fine for herself still.
Yeah,
This guy, I can't remember. I should have looked it up and I apologize. I can't remember. It was forever ago that I read this. He's like an accountant or something or a tax guy. He has some like
so
very
crazy.
normal job. He stays out of the
Yeah.
red carpet limelight, And she
His
keeps
wife
their
just so happens to be
relationship.
Dolly Parton.
Yeah, his wife, exactly. His wife just so happens to be Dolly fucking Parton. And
Uh,
what's hilarious about all this is when you watch Dolly Parton interviews. So the reason I'm going interviews is because we're talking about the Ascendant. And like we
right.
said, the Ascendant is a lot of first impressions. Like the things that you
Mm-hmm.
say on a dime, on a whim, immediately,
Mm-hmm.
go to things, like these are going to be a lot in your Ascendant and or anything around your Ascendant, like the
Right,
moon that we're
right.
looking at here. um Dolly is, this is so Virgo. Dolly is one of those people who is very honest. You can tell she's
Mm-hmm.
not lying. She's not being like
She does give that
disingenuine.
honest vibe. Like
Yeah, she's
the few
honest,
times I've seen
authentic.
her,
Yeah,
yeah, like I saw her on the Dallas Cowboys thing that was on Netflix.
yeah,
If you guys haven't seen that, go watch it. She does have an air about her that comes off incredibly, I am who
genuine,
I
right?
am.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Very genuine. This is who I am. And at the same time, this is like with a wave of that like Virgo alchemist hand, you
Mm.
can barely, like, I'm also holding these incredibly strong boundaries. And
Mm-hmm.
these are the parts of my life that I do not share. And it's not out of this insecure, shameful place. We're talking like professional boundary holder kind of a thing. Like
Yeah,
what, like
yeah.
goals that we all try to have. You know what I mean? When we're like, oh my God,
Well,
why did I
okay,
tell
so
that person
speaking of
that?
that, I was going to ask you
Mhm.
about what do you think about her Chiron and Libra in the second house as it relates to that? Because I love that you brought up the whole like professional boundary holder.
Mhm.
And then I saw this Chiron and Libra, and I'm like, well, she's been in the same relationship for like 60 fucking years. Is this a work thing? What are
Um,
your, yeah, because it's in the second house of what's mine. And so, sorry guys, we're kind of jumping ahead right now.
no,
Our
no, I get it.
astrologer brains just took
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
Well, because they're like, what do you mean? Chiron and Libra. Hold on. What does that mean? I think I'm thinking about the listener, you know. Chiron and Libra can often be having issues or shadow work around relationships, attachment issues, things like that. It could also be like a decision-making thing. And then the second house is the house of what's mine and
Mhm.
possessions and seeing that line.
So when I see it, first of all, what instantly came to me is this is a person who, especially when I relate this like to what I was just talking about, the Virgo and the Virgo moon
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, 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 yeah.
This is a person who I feel like has taken their lessons in life very seriously. We're talking the high
Hmm.
evolving side of Libra here, the diplomat here,
Right. The
who
diplomat.
is,
Yep.
let's look at the scales, let's balance self
Hmm.
and other, let's learn. And
Hmm.
this is where that little Virgo flavor comes in. Let's learn from our past. Like, let's look at the data. What were the
That's
patterns?
very
What have I done in
true.
the past?
Because with
And I'll
age
act
does come
accordingly.
wisdom.
Yes. And
And
that's
she's
what I'm saying. If
older.
you watch her
Yeah.
interviews, especially in like the 70s, 80s,
Hmm.
keep in mind that means she's in her 30s, 40s at this point, right? Her
Right,
career,
right.
from what I read, I'm pretty sure her career considered to have its first like really big peak in the 70s was when she was like first
Yeah.
super superstar. She got famous in the 60s, but by the 70s she was fucking huge. And
Yeah.
those interviews during that time, she has what you're talking about. She has this like wisdom, but you can
Mm.
tell it comes from a person who has been doing the inner work or really looking at their actions and learning from them. This is a person who is speaking from experience. I'm
You
comfortable
know,
with myself because I've betrayed myself in the past. That's how it rings true or rings to me.
right. Or she's been betrayed in the past. Any of you guys that are listening that know Dolly,
Mm,
I would love to know if you guys know anything about like, people that she's worked with that may have like screwed her over, business deals that went left. The reason why I'm
yeah,
thinking about that is because again, with age comes wisdom. She has this wisdom. And then this whole idea of like attachment issues, trusting the wrong people with that Chiron and Libra in the second house. The second house is the house of business. To me, this looks like somebody may have fucked her over in the past. And
yeah.
also, too, what I was going to say, can you imagine Hollywood in the 60s and 70s? If it's crooked now, holy fuck, was it probably crooked then?
Oh yeah.
You
And
know?
she was, her style and the way that she presented herself, her stage presence, in a lot of ways, people would be like, that was so much more like what I would classify as Leo and not as
I would agree.
Virgo, right? Like we see this. And at the same time, one of the interview clips I have seen during that time are interviewers asking her about her appearance and how she presents herself. And you can tell the way the interviewer is asking them, there is so much judgment beneath the question for how she's dressed and all of this.
Mm,
And the way that she answers, as soon as we saw the chart, I'm like, oh, but it's still Virgo. It's like the reasons behind why she
mm-hmm,
presents herself that way and why that's her stage presence and like how she likes to like again present herself. Yet like it really is this, she's like a glamour witch to me. Like you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
this,
I can
it's
totally see
very
that.
intentional, and that's where the Virgo part comes in for me because it's
Yeah.
this very earth-based self-care practice. Like this is how I
Mm-hmm,
dress and this is how I present myself because I like that. This works for
mm-hmm.
me. This is how I feel good. The answer is no more complicated than that kind of a thing.
Right, right, right.
And I feel like Leo would have a lot bigger of this, you know what I mean, answer and approach to all of that. And there is
Mm-hmm.
definitely something, and it's her earth energy, keeping
Yeah.
this like very mindful. I choose my words very carefully. I know exactly what I'm saying when I say it. And what's interesting about the Libra Chiron is, again, that kind of just on point boundary holding probably comes from somebody exactly who has either been betrayed by other people that they thought that they could trust and or betrayed themselves and had to go through a period of really learning self acceptance, like
Mm-hmm,
really, really coming into some sort of self
mm-hmm,
acceptance. Because one of the biggest shadow sides of Libra that always jumps out at me is people pleasing. And
mm-hmm.
she doesn't read people pleaser to you, but it looks
No.
more like this might be a reformed people pleaser, not
Well,
somebody that doesn't get that, but someone who grew from it.
right. Well, okay, so a few things on that. The first thing is I think it's this age-old lesson, right? That we learn when we first start out astrology. You grow into your birth chart. And
Yes.
when we look at Chiron signs, we often mature into our Chiron sign, right? Like, yeah, my Chiron is in Cancer, as you know. And I think about, the version of myself with Chiron and Cancer when I was 15 versus the version of myself with Chiron and Cancer today. Like I hold that placement strong,
Oh yeah.
versus at 15, I'm like, why does nobody
Oh
love
my God. As a
me?
fellow Chiron and Cancer, I,
Right,
yes.
exactly, exactly.
Yes.
And so speaking to Dolly, right? Dolly as obviously, she's got some age on us. So we don't really know what Dolly was like in those earlier years. So we're
Mm-mm.
only seeing this matured version of
Right.
Dolly who knows, and obviously she's not an astrologer. Maybe she knows this about it. Who knows? But all
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
is like we are seeing this kind of maturity around this Chiron and Libra placement, Chiron and Libra too, which again, to mimic what you said, definitely feels like there was some sort of betrayal or line crossing, boundary crossing.
Hmm.
That second house is very much, this is mine and that is yours.
Right.
And with a Chiron in the second house, we don't know whose is who and what is it that you need, almost like the people pleasing, like you said. Um, I want to switch gears a little bit to the Leo. Now, since we're talking about it,
Hmm.
Leo rules the 12th house and her
Hmm.
Pluto's in Leo. So that's so fascinating because, like you said, she does present very Leo at first glance. At first glance, she does
Yep.
present very Leo. I think that's a testament to her self-awareness and her level of comfortability with who she is. To me, and definitely tell me how you feel about this, but like Leo ruling the 12th house if I were to read this chart raw like I am today, this is somebody who is having some issues with like getting out there and showing who they want to be authentically, and their true self
Mm.
is kind of hidden in the underbellies of their soul, you know what I mean? And Pluto in there as well, even though he is a generational planet, it still is a testament to the fact that she's got Pluto in 12 too. This
Oh
idea of
yeah.
like being in the dark almost about who she is. It did when
Mm.
you did your research, it sounds like she became famous later in life.
So I'm pretty sure it said that the first, good, it is still right here. Her first single debuted in, okay, her album debut was 1967 with Hello, I'm Dolly, which led to success during the remainder of the 60s, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, in
But
her
before her
30s.
sales and chart peak arrived during the 1970s and continued into the 80s. She did have a little dip in her career during the 90s, like hit or miss. It was mostly like Dolly
Hmm.
Stans who hung with her. But then she hit another big rise in the 2000s and basically has just carried herself ever
And
since then. That's
the
fascinating
isn't it?
career in Hollywood and the music industry. It's just a fascinating timeline. It's very different than a lot of others.
The 30s is late to get discovered, if you will.
Oh yeah,
That's
and
pretty
then to
late.
hang on like that. And by the
Hang
way,
on
she
to it, yeah.
started and still remains technically categorized country. And
Yeah.
so we don't see as many, especially in our modern day, like we don't hold as many. This is no shade to country fans, by the way. I'm just saying that
No, we
it's
love you
not like,
guys.
yeah,
You
I'm
guys
just
can
saying
sit
it's
with us.
not the like big popular, like, most of our legends. Now, as soon as I say that,
Right.
yes, I know I could name about 5 country legends off the top of my head. My
I
point
can't.
though, my point though is that it's still not the genre that we go to think of for like music superstars either.
Yeah.
Unless you say in the country category, you know what I mean? Unless you
Right. No,
specify. Yeah,
I know
exactly. And she
exactly what you
is a
mean.
fucking superstar legend.
Yeah. Yeah, she is.
That
Um,
Pluto in Leo, by the way, I want to make note of that Pluto in Leo in the 12th. I want to make note of there is definitely past life indicators here, big time.
mhm.
There is, and here's the part in astrology where you got to use what you know about the placements and the energies, and you really have to open up to your intuition when you like want to peel back potential past life at all, which is fine. Or
Dani, you cut out a little bit. Can you repeat yourself? You cut out right around where past lives. It was just getting good. You want to like look into something around past lives.
so when you want to look into past lives as an astrologer, or using the chart, I should say, a lot of people either stay away from past lives altogether because they don't really know how, right? How to apply this information outside of this life incarnation. Because the
Hmm.
truth is, that's what this chart is. It's a snapshot of what you chose your soul path in this life. But there's tons of indicators into what's led here and this stop along the way in your soul
Hmm.
journey. This is where you have to really open up to your intuition. I mean, really open up to your intuition. When I saw Pluto in Leo in the 12th, I saw somebody who potentially either abused like fame and the center
Mm.
stage and the spotlight in other
Can you
lives.
break down for the listeners? I see why you
Why?
say
Yes,
that, but break
yes,
down
I
for the
can.
listeners why you came to that conclusion.
So, couple of reasons. Um, First, the reason I go past lives in the first place is
Mhm.
because we're in the 12th and because this is
Mhm.
Pluto. The
Yeah.
12th house is the house of the unconscious, the house of the unseen. Many people believe that the unconscious part of ourselves or our subconscious is our direct portal gateway to our Akashic records, to our soul
Mm-hmm.
timeline. So we look at the 12th house for lots of past life connections, because there's death and rebirth here, number one.
Right. Right.
Pluto, I look at because it is such a deep, long standing generational placement. I
Yeah.
believe not only does Pluto reflect a lot of our generational traits and things that have led up to who we are, but I
Mm-hmm.
believe that it's such a long-standing placement. It also indicates some other themes and events and connections to past lives as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why when I saw Pluto in the 12th, first of all, I was like, all right. And then I added that Leo layer over it, Leo being very associated with center stage in the spotlight. A lot of
Yeah.
the fire signs, but especially Leo and Sagittarius, are very common major placements in a lot of celebrities and
Mm-hmm.
famous people. So I saw Pluto in Leo in the 12th as this almost reminder that her soul team gave her in this life, that she chose in this
Mm-hmm.
life, to remind her of past lessons that she's had to learn to get here today. And it's almost like, in some ways, her career could be another shot, an opportunity to heal, an opportunity to grow, I mean, look at the Dolly Parton. One of the other things I know about her is her book club and how much she uses her fame to give back and to help and to give back to children, to give back to
I did
literal
know that too.
future
Yeah.
generations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's trying to literally help beyond her one lifetime, like have these like future generations, this positive impact on future generations. And it's almost like, I wonder if that's a way to make up for or repair or heal from instances that have potentially happened in past lives or other lives.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because you see her North Node in Gemini, and they call Gemini the curious kid of the zodiac, right? So this idea of wanting to be really curious about your surroundings and always asking why, and imagery for you all that are listening, but think about the kid that's like in the back seat and like won't stop asking why, but why, but why, but why. That is what Gemini is in the best way. Ask all the questions, says my Sagittarius ass. But um, yeah, so I think that's interesting because I do. When you said that, that sparked a memory that I had of Dolly and her humanitarian work.
Mm-hmm.
And she does do a lot of that. So I think that's interesting. I want to talk about this conjunction in Cancer. Like,
Oh yeah.
oh
There's
my
the conjunction.
God.
So what's jumping out at me is the conjunction in Cancer squaring the Libra, squaring the Capricorn. So what we talk when we're
So
talking about these squares, we're talking about these cardinal signs, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn, that are activating each other in like a challenging way. And
yeah,
then
we
when
don't talk much about
says,
aspects on the podcast, but this is
yeah,
kind of a big one.
this is a big
So
one. When
glad
Ash
we should talk
says
about it.
conjunction, that means the ones that are right next to each other or like merged with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Saturn and Mars are 20 degrees in Cancer, 11 right on top of each other. Fascinating planets to be conjuncted, no?
Absolutely. Especially in Cancer.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Because
know.
both are considered to be kind of out of their wheelhouse in Cancer. Mars is
Yeah.
considered to be in its fall in Cancer, and Saturn is in its detriment in Cancer. Now, take
Mm.
that with a grain of salt. That doesn't mean, I'm not a huge traditional astrologer, so I don't look at the planets as malefics and benefics as much as like
Other
traditional
people
astrologers do.
would.
Yeah. When I look at that and the way I use it, that's called the dignities, by the way, is knowing what planets are comfier and not comfy in other signs. That's how I
Hmm.
look at it. I look at familiarity. Where are you comfortable? Where do you feel out of your
I think
wheelhouse?
it's
Where do you
important
feel
to
out of your
know.
element? Yeah,
I think,
exactly. I
yeah,
use
I think
it,
it's
but I also
important to
don't think
know.
it means you're fucked. That's sometimes when you hear a planet's in its
Yeah.
fall, like I'm like, it doesn't mean you're screwed.
Yeah, the verbiage is intense. I
Yes.
mean, so let's break it down, right? So we have Cancer, the divine mother, this water energy, this matriarchal energy, this emotional body sort of energy. And then we've got Mars, this planet of passion and what we fight about and what we fight for. And then we've got Saturn, this planet of discipline and time management and boundary setting. And then we've got the 11th house, which is all about friendships. What the fuck? What do you make of this?
So again, just like I felt with the Pluto in the 12th in Leo,
Mm-hmm.
when I see Saturn like paired up with someone like this in the chart, I'm like, ooh, someone chose a chaperone. Someone chose to keep a
Yeah.
fucking eye on themselves in this life and like make
Mm-hmm.
sure you could not run away from accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what Saturn does. When we talk about the discipline and the boundaries of Saturn, that all happens through experiential learning of Saturn. And like, okay, you can make these decisions today. Let's see what happens when they come back around. And sometimes those decisions are good for us, and sometimes they hold us back or whatever. That's why our Saturn return kicks us in the ass, and why you hear astrologers talk about it so much, because it's this really big, almost reckoning of like self accountability. You get humbled as fuck during your Saturn return. To have your Saturn buddied up with the planet that's in charge of your actions and motives and desires and drive, it feels like you are keeping a fucking eye on yourself. And adding the Cancer flavor into it, I think was kind of nice. I feel like it softened Saturn up a little bit, potentially.
Too bad.
And maybe helps us approach that chaperone role in ourselves from hopefully a kinder place, from like a
Yeah.
caregiver, nurturing place. That placement, that Saturn Mars conjunction in Cancer could look really scary in certain people. That could be an intense placement in
Yeah.
certain people. And in Dolly, I feel like it might be a big reason why you and I get this sense of someone who has like really learned from their actions, because
I
that
think
placement says learns from actions to me.
I think she was taken advantage of by friends. That's
Mm.
that's what I think. I think she's had a lot of friends take from her and friends pose as friends that weren't really friends, hence the learning from the actions and that caregiver instinct, right? And that
Hmm.
passion. And then Saturn as the chaperone, like, wait, hold on, hun, hold on. But then we
Yeah.
can't forget about the square, the direct square to Chiron. That Chiron and Libra comes back and the boundaries in the second house. I think I need to read Dolly's book because I'm sure that there's stuff in there. Dolly has lived a long enough life where somebody listening that's a Dolly fan can corroborate this. But
Oh
that
yeah.
that placement to me looks like she has had a lot of people manipulate the fuck out of her,
Yeah.
which makes me sad.
Yeah. She strikes me as a person who wouldn't put it that way, though. That's what I mean. She
Yeah,
strikes me as a person who would still,
agreed.
the way she would frame it is
Hmm.
her own actions and her own contribution to it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
She's
totally
one of
do.
those people, there's a lot of them out there on social media that Ashley and I know plenty of them that position themselves as victims, victims, victims all day long.
Hmm.
And I have never once got that vibe from this woman,
No,
not
and
in a
you got to look at all
single
the earth she
interview.
has in her, right? She's got a
Hmm.
stellium in Capricorn, then she's
Hmm.
got Sun, ascendant conjunct Moon here, and then her whole midheaven is in Taurus. So that is automatically gonna give her this grounded spirit off cuff,
Oh,
off
yeah.
jump. You
Oh,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Her major like the luminaries, the personals, like we're looking at the Sun, Venus, and Mercury, like major players in the chart. Um, Let me just double check this. Yep. And see, this is why we
They're
double
all
check.
in
It's in the
cap.
last degree. Yeah.
Exactly.
The
Hmm.
last degree of Capricorn. And then again, the conjunction, when two planets are conjunct, like one cannot function without another, guys.
Hmm.
Conjunctions are kind of a really big deal. And we're looking at them all over her chart in a number of ways. Boom, boom. I'm sure these two are conjunct. They look like they're conjunct
Yes.
Sun and Venus. Yeah, 26, 29. Like, so she's got three conjunctions off jump. And out of these three conjunctions, two of them are in earth signs and one is in water. So this woman feels for other people. She's very
Oh
empathetic.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There is, and at the same time, Capricorn and Virgo, especially Virgo moon being our emotional placement, right?
Hmm.
Um, not just learns to keep their emotions in check, but could potentially struggle with some emotional suppression sometimes. I wouldn't
I
be
would
surprised if
agree.
that's
Yeah.
something she does struggle with even now to this day,
Hmm.
is trusting other people enough, especially if that goes into the 11th house stuff, trusting other people enough to allow herself to be an emotional person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, this is,
Especially
and you
with
know
the
what's
Virgo.
really funny is of all music artists, especially of her time, she talks about business a lot. She references
Really.
business a lot. Yes.
I
And
mean, midheaven and Taurus.
Midheaven
Come
and
on with it.
Taurus, Stellium and Cap, Virgo ascendant with the
Hmm.
moon right there was hilarious. And
Yeah.
the only reason I know that is I've heard her say it in like an interview. But then when I was doing my brief Wikipedia scan, there were multiple instances where it was like, oh, Dolly attributes this knowledge of business here. And I was like, how interesting someone that an artist that brings up business so frequently, and not
Right.
all artists do that. Like, keep that in mind. There are
No.
so
Like
many
I'd love to pick
celebrities that go
Britney's brain
straight up
about business.
bankrupt. Yeah, that have
I'd love to pick her
no hand
brain.
in the business pot
Right.
at all. And so that was another thing that made her, and I think has always kind of made her stand out. And it really is this, that Capricorn shining and trining that Taurus midheaven. Absolutely. I think part of it comes a little bit naturally. And then she also attributes a lot of it, I read, to her father, who couldn't read, by the way, but she still
Wow.
attributes, she says that he was one of the smartest people she ever knew,
I believe
especially
that.
in business, which was so, so interesting to read. Um,
Yeah.
but this is a fascinating chart, because for having such, like Ash pointed out, really kind of major, somewhat intense placements, this is such a quintessential Virgo rising to me, because you would barely know that unless you dig into her. I feel like you just wouldn't really know about the difficulties, because she might say, I've been through things in my life, but she's also not a person that, you know what I'm trying to say, like constantly uses like their struggles
As
to
like an
get
excuse.
famous. Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm just saying. Yeah, exactly. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she's
Mm-hmm. I
honest
know
about
exactly
them, so
what you
you know she's a
mean.
real person, but she just never has had that victim approach ever. And that is very DIY, be accountable for yourself, earth energy.
DIY. She's a hard
Yeah.
worker.
Fuck yeah, she
Dolly,
is.
we give you your flowers, girl. You're doing your big
Absolutely.
one. You're still
Yeah.
doing your big one. Yeah, this was a really good chart, and I think this is really good for those of you that are listening, because like I said, Dani and I are not versed in Dolly's life, so I'm really curious as to what y'all think of this episode
Hmm.
and our interpretations of her chart. She does have a wild chart going on. Her chart kind of looks like the wild, wild west. There's, shit popping off everywhere and every little which way.
I know.
Um, Interesting that Aries rules her eighth house of business and finance. But yeah, so anything else you got before we let the listeners go, girl?
No, I loved this. I can't wait to hear, hopefully, from the Dolly fans that are
The Dolly
listening. I
fans, hit
roast
us
us. I want
up.
to hear how we did. I
Yes, for
absolutely do.
real.
Yeah. Or give us
You
the
guys
juice.
already know. Yeah, give us the juice, you already know. Share the episode, share it with a friend, share it with your mama, share it on the gram. Give us that 5-star review. I have been noticing you guys are loving Astrology After Dark. Dani and I love to do it. It's fun for us. And we're gonna keep them coming. Let us know who else you want to see for
Yeah.
sure.
Spooky season is here. Let us know.
Spooky season's
We'll go
here.
there.
We will. Where can the people find you, Dani?
You guys can always find me at That Witch Next Door everywhere across social media. If you are ever looking for just a fun, welcoming, and actually like credible community to be a part of and learn witchcraft and astrology, That Witch School is always here for you, my friends.
I love it. All of Dani's links will be down below.
Yay.
And
Oh, and Ash will be
I,
back on Shadow Chats. That Witch podcast
yes,
is coming back after my summer break. I'm so excited. We're gonna, you know what's funny? I haven't told you this. We're coming back from our Shadow Chats and my podcast break with the Libra New Moon episode, and that was the very, very first Shadow Chats we ever did was
holy
the
shit.
Libra New Moon. And so I thought that was really cute and full circle.
Oh my God, I
This will
love
be our
that.
third Libra New Moon episode we've done together.
Girl,
Isn't
where is the
that
time
cool? I
going?
know. I know. We grow up so
Eh,
fast.
We really do. I can't even. Oh my God, that's insane. I love
I
that.
know. I love
Well,
it.
yeah, so you can find me on Dani's podcast as well. We'll make sure that your podcast is linked below. So go give her a follow. And we're just going to keep pushing out this content because the more people we
Yeah.
reach, the more the collective raises its vibration, darling.
Real
Um,
astrology. Keep bring we're
real
here to bring the
astrology,
real astrology to the people.
not the pop culture astrology,
Nope.
the real one.
The real one.
Awesome. Okay. All right, babes. You already know the drill. We will talk to you soon. We'll see you in the next one. And ciao, ciao for now. Hello, friends. I hope you loved today's episode. Make sure you share it with a friend, share it with somebody that you love, and tag me on the gram at Ashley Michelle 90 Day and let me know your thoughts. Leaving that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify is literally what helps this work get to the right people. As you may or may not know, we are in the middle of a spiritual revolution, and us being able to get our hands on resources like this podcast and others is what is literally going to make the world go round. So do me this favor and please leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and share the episode with somebody you love. It really, truly does mean the world to me. I love you so very much, and I will see you in the next one.